I want you to get together.
Hey, Paul, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Can you hear us okay?
Hey, yeah, I can. Just let me take that headphone out. Usually that stops the. There you go. Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear. There we go.
Right. I was saying, thanks a million for coming on.
No problem at all.
Fair
Thanks
play
for
to you.
having me.
Because I know you're very busy.
You're churning out a lot of stuff these days.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I don't really try not to think much about it. I just get on with it, to be honest. But no, I've
Yeah.
actually had a bit of a week off, to be honest, because my son got pneumonia. So I've actually been
Oh,
in
right.
A&E for a few nights, and he's back home now, and he's doing
Sorry
all
to hear
right now.
that.
Well,
Yeah, so
How
I've
old
just
is
kind
he?
of just been throwing out old podcast visits for the past week. So this is actually my first time back
Okay.
at work, I suppose, if you want to call it anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's good to be
Well,
here.
Thanks.
thanks a million. I hope he's all right now.
Are we recording?
Yeah, I think I just just press record there now. Yeah, thanks a million. Jeez, you had a lot on your plate, so Paul.
Well,
Yeah,
I'm okay. He's okay. He's back to
It's
his normal
stressful, though.
self.
It's- yeah.
It is very stressful, but the
Yeah.
antibiotics
Yeah.
have worked, so he's kind of
Yeah,
back to his usual 4-year-old self, and you kind of
That's good.
forget just how active they are when they're ill, when they're not ill anymore. It's a bit of a shock
Yeah,
to the
that's it.
system. So-
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's good though. It's good.
I
to have
actually
him back.
got it twice myself. Once inside in school, I'd say I was about maybe 15, and I'd say I missed about a month from school.
Did you?
Yeah, and I got it as well. Back during the COVID time, and we couldn't go to a GP, so I was on the phone to my GP explaining my symptoms, and they're so similar to COVID.
Mm.
And the doctor, I just went for 3 COVID tests, came back negative 3 times, and then the doctor told me you have pneumonia. And I think I lost something like a stone in 5 or 6 days.
Go away.
Yeah. So it's not not like a flu, like, you know, it's you get fairly hit by it.
Yeah, my brother about 10, well, over a decade ago now, he actually almost died from it. He was only young. He's only about in his 20s, and he ended up leaving it too late to go to hospital because he thought he just pulled a muscle in his back because he had this pain going down his back, and he was staying at his girlfriend's at the time, who became his wife, and he stayed. If he'd stayed an extra day, he would have been screwed. He would have been dead.
Jesus.
But then the
God.
doctors didn't really know what it was at first, and they delayed, and then they gave him the wrong medication, so it got even worse. And he got to the point where he was on some kind of special bed that like moves you from side to side to keep the fluid in your lungs from going hard.
Oh,
Wow.
my God.
And he was just under coma, oxygen,
Oh my
and
God.
he literally was about to die. We got called in because they thought he was going to die, and miraculously he actually pulled through. So when my son was exhibiting these signs, I was like, yeah, get hospital right now. And we just
Yeah.
caught it, but I'd actually already sent us home once and missed it. And it was 2 days later, we
Right.
ended up going back in, and I was like, you are
Jeez.
running every single bloody test you can do right now. You are not sending it home and fobbing it off. It's not happening, you know? And they
Yeah.
miraculously
Yeah.
managed to suddenly pull an X-ray out of nowhere, which apparently they couldn't do last time. And yeah, pneumonia, 1 lung on his left side, full pneumonia. I was like, yeah, I knew it.
Jeez.
It's one of those moments. So
And if you didn't push it, like you wouldn't have maybe.
maybe
Wouldn't
not.
have known.
No, it would have
You know?
maybe been a much worse situation. But luckily, he responded straight away to antibiotics, and yeah, we caught it and we've got it down, and it seems like he's doing really well now. So we got lucky, like again. But the
Really,
NHS is
yeah.
just absolutely useless. It was one fight after another, just one absolute nightmare fight after another. But like I said, we got there. We were smart enough to know what to look for. So luckily, I think we've come out on top in this situation. But now me and my wife are like waiting for us to
Yeah.
get symptoms or for us to have something going on. And we've also got a 1-year-old. So we're worried he's going to get it
Yes.
next. So we're like watching
Oh,
like a
God.
hawk right now, just waiting for anything to happen so we can get it
Yeah.
fixed immediately.
Yeah, but look, at least you be proactive about it anyway, you know.
Exactly.
On the NHS, there was some, I can't remember his name. He's a doctor, and he was going out against the whole COVID jabs anyway. And was it his father-in-law?
His father died.
Was it his father died of a heart attack?
Yeah.
And they and a neighbor had called an ambulance, and the father was a doctor as well, so they called an ambulance, and it took a mad amount of time, like an hour or something,
Yeah.
for the ambulance to come out. And he later found out through someone that was involved with the NHS that the ambulances were told at the time to give priority to other illnesses, and the heart attack was down their I suppose
It's crazy.
their order, like, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
which is nuts.
Our health service situation in Ireland is it's under serious pressure as well.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Um,
Is it anything to do with an influx of unwarranted migration that's causing a stress on the system like it is in the UK?
Yeah,
or is it
yeah.
something
Do you know
else?
what? Yeah. You know, I talk about this kind of stuff all the time, but myself and John started doing this podcast because I wanted to get away from the stuff that was making me miserable and thinking about mass migration, and like you're dealing with the same stuff we're dealing with here.
It's nuts.
And I mean, they're pouring in Dover, and then they're moving up the country, and then they're crossing into Belfast and coming down here as well. And I mean, there was something like a couple of hundred guys outside our government buildings there a couple of days ago, screaming that they wanted passports.
Yeah,
Give us passports.
that was
It's
nuts.
mental. Like, it's like
They want
two or 300 black fellas going, "We want passports."
And houses.
Yeah, it's
And
mental.
houses.
Yeah.
Mental. Yeah.
Give me money.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, like, I don't know. Me and my wife are trying to figure out if we can get out of the country to America, but I don't think it's much better there either, to be honest.
Yeah.
At least your healthcare will
I
be
mean, we're-
fast. That's what we've learned.
Yeah. Where could we go? I mean, is there anywhere that we could just go to live in peace now at this point? I don't know.
I don't think so. I think
Sweden or someplace.
I've heard a thing or two about that. It's
Not
just as
Sweden.
bad.
Or not Sweden. There's somewhere. Where is that place inside Europe? Is supposed to be. They have things like
Switzerland?
migration all day.
Switzerland. Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
But everyone started looking there, and
Yeah.
But
everyone will
Switzerland
try to go in there, but
and
it's not
Norway, I think, aren't even a part of the EU, even though they're right in the center of Europe, and Norway's up north, and yeah, they're not actually a member, so I think they have their own thing going on. They've still got their own currencies. I think it's the franc. I think in Switzerland or something. Is it the franc? I can't remember what it's called.
Swiss franc, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and in Norway they've
Yeah,
got their
yeah,
own
the-
currency. The krona. I don't know. In Norway they've got their own currency still, and I think they've avoided a lot of the problems that we have as a result.
Yeah.
But Britain might be out of the
Yeah.
European Union now, but we were already too far gone in terms of the damage that was done. And even though we're out, we're still playing the playbook as the rules. You know, it's like it's taking time to untangle that web, and I think it's too late, to be honest. There's some sort of weird revolution happening in the UK right now, and a revival of Christian identitarianism. You know, which as a Christian I'm happy to see, but at the same time, as a conspiracy theorist, I'm like, this seems like a long-term plan in the making to create Christian nationalists to go to war and cause a horrible turmoil in the future. You know, I think what we're seeing is cultural Christians rather than followers of Jesus Christ, if you get what I mean. It's like,
Yeah.
this is a Christian
Actually,
country type thing.
Yeah. Yes. I suppose over the last sort of 15 years for myself, I would have been raised in a non-practicing Catholic family. We were pretty good with it when we were in primary school. The primary school I went to was pretty good. And I suppose then I kind of just drifted away from it. And I suppose when I started becoming this kind of conspiracy theorist person as well, the last place I ever thought I would end up would be considering Christianity again. I didn't think that I was going to be led down that path or whatever. But I suppose some of the stuff that was pushing me towards Christianity, I was seeing a lot of like all the satanic stuff in music and in slipping it into movies and that kind of thing. And I used to see these compilation videos on YouTube of very often athletes being interviewed by Fox News or whatever. And as soon as they start saying, well, I bring all my success back to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, they would cut them off. And I would see this, and there was a famous soccer player who they won the Champions League, and he had a bandana on his head that said 100% Jesus. But when they showed the replays later, they had it blurred out. And so that kind of stuff was, I suppose, has kind of pushed me a little bit back towards Christianity when I'm seeing this. They're trying to censor it, I guess. But I suppose then I'm starting to see guys like Mark Wahlberg and other famous actors selling their Bible apps and things like that and seem to be pushing it. Do you see any of that kind of stuff yourself?
Yeah, well, I think there's a lot of broad understandings of what it means to be a Christian today. And I think the word Christian itself comes with a lot of weight and baggage that people associate with priests raping little boys and all sorts of other horrible things. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of people today struggle to understand how Christianity can even relate to them in any way, shape, or form because of what secularism has done to us for the better part of the 20th century, you know, and this enlightenment moving away from primitive Abrahamic belief systems towards a new age of mankind's own evolutionary control through science and all this type of thing. I think a lot of people are don't really know what Christianity is, and they look to the church for an example. And unfortunately, I think most churches are absolute corrupt cesspits of false doctrine and lies, especially, well, I say especially the Catholic Church. Maybe it wasn't always the case, but most of the things they get involved with and do, I wouldn't really say are in the book at all. They should even be doing, you know. But they would argue to the nines that they are the only true form of Christianity that anyone should follow, and they have the apostolic succession all the way down to Peter. But then the Orthodox will come in and say, you're wrong. We have the only church you should follow, and we have the apostolic. You know, then there's this war between the orthodoxies of Christianity, which again is bad optics all around. And then you get the Protestants and the 40,000 denominations that come out from that as well. And it's kind of, okay, so something went wrong with the church. It's very clear. So whatever we have today is probably far removed from the ecclesia that was in the first century when it was first happening, you know. And I think what we need to do is read the book ourselves, read the stories ourselves, get to know the character of Jesus Christ, and start from the beginning. I think people need to realize a relationship with Jesus isn't going to church. It's not a building or a set of systems and rituals and rules created by man. That's actually what Jesus came to destroy. If you actually read the book, you know, the systems, the Pharisees and the Sadducees, and the man's understanding of what it means to have a relationship with God. He came to give the real relationship through his works and his sacrifice, and it doesn't involve buildings or institutions. I think, but the problem is most people today consider that is Christianity, so they look to the flaws of the institutions and equate that as Christianity is inherently flawed. But what you're actually looking at is just the flaws of man, thinking he knows better. So I feel like today there's like a revival online of this back to basics Christianity, which I suppose I would like to consider myself a member of. I'm a non-denominational. I'm not here to associate with any particular denomination, but just simply read the words of Christ and just try and follow his example. That's all we can actually do. And I think through those real examples, and I've met a few in my own life, real people who love God, love Jesus, and are doing the best they can to alleviate suffering through their own self-sacrifice. More of that, I think, would do wonders for Christianity. But what the TV will point to is these, you know, prosperity gospel people, or the mega churches, or the Westboro Baptist Church over there. You know what I mean? Screaming horrible things. And it's kind of, they always want to try and frame it either as extremist lunatics or goody two shoes, Ned Flander types who are weak and pathetic, and it's kind of, you know, and it's these extremes you find everywhere, or I don't know, they show the Pope and display him as like some kind of reptilian type monster, or predator of some kind, and it's kind of none of that bears any resemblance to what it actually means just to accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior and try and build up a relationship with the Father in heaven through him. I mean, that's all it is, you know, and I'd like to think I'm doing the best I can today to try and get more people to reconsider Christianity, because I myself was like you, like it was the last place I wanted to go. It really was. Like when I was first waking up to like the conspiracy stuff, it's like I didn't think I'd end up being a Christian. I mean, from my edgy 13 to like, I don't know, 12 to like 15-year-old years, I was staunchly against Christianity, and I would have all the things to say of why it's just so ridiculous. You know what I mean? What do you mean he wants to get the 300 foreskins of Philistine men? What kind of king is this? You know, this type of like retorts, like, you know, thinking I'm being clever and cocky. And but then as I got older and as I had these spiritual warfare experiences, and as I got to grips with the things you were talking about, you know, the Satanists everywhere, the blatant agendas at play that are anti-God, anti-Jesus, and pro-new world order, new age religions, scientism, futurism, transhumanism, all this type of stuff, mankind taking control of his own, being God, controlling his own evolution, spitting in the face of Jesus at any moment. And you can't help but look at that and think, well, if they believe in the devil, maybe I should start getting to understand what God is, you know, because they clearly believe, and they're not even like hiding it. And so when you do take that step, though, you do really have to like humble yourself and say, okay, maybe I don't know everything. Help me, God, please. And if you do ask, you tend to receive. But don't take that lightly, because you will receive. And you might not be ready for. I don't know. It was a bit of a mind. Yeah, it messed me up for a while learning about the truth of reality when I asked God to show me. But once you get through it all, you can't go back. It's one of those. So that's kind of my take on these people out there who are, because there is a weird, like I said, celebrities suddenly pushing Christianity and pushing the Bible apps and stuff. And I feel like a lot of that could be a ploy I think they want to create a type of Christianity which is more militant. I do think that's what they're pushing for right now. I think there's a long agenda at play to foment a war between Islam and Christianity in Western nations. And to do that, you need to first destroy, infiltrate, and denigrate civilization to the point where they have no identity. The white nations, for example, Christian nations, lose that sense of national identity and some kind of direction and purpose. Tradition at its finest. I think they've destroyed tradition through the leftist propaganda for so long, and the long march through the schools, of Marxism and the rest. And I think now it's time for the pendulum to swing the other way, and that was always the plan. They want to stretch the rubber band so far that it snaps, and then suddenly there's going to be a huge surge in Christian nationalism, to claim that sense of identity, in stark contrast to these invaders in our own countries who do have a sense of our community identity that's far powerful and stronger than what we currently have in this broken system. And I think that was always the plan, to get people so riled up and angry, rightfully so as well, because it's like, well, look at these things people are doing to us, it's heinous on every level. But the point is, focus on the symptom, of the problem, which is the skirmishes on the ground level, rather than the cause of the problem, which are these evil elites behind the scenes who let these people in to begin with, and they're trying to want us fighting each other while they can continue with their agenda of chaos, basically, and order out.
He poured at the.
Sorry,
I've got it in a minute.
So they just started playing in my headphones. I don't know if you can hear
Heart,
that.
But
No, I didn't hear it. No.
Yeah, good. So order out of chaos. So I think they're fomenting that chaos right now. But they always knew there would be a rise of Christianity again. The point is to co-opt it and control that rise, and control the steam and let it loose on their level. You know what I mean? And they've gathered the momentum and the steam, and now they're going to release it. But they want to make sure those people searching for that sense of religion, tradition, identity do it their way. And that their way is going to be militant. It's going to be Deus Volt, let's have another crusade type of Christianity, which are always the things they point to say, look how evil Christians are. But that's what they want to kind of bring up again. So I think suddenly every celebrity everywhere suddenly becoming a Christian and spreading Christianity is just the same method they've always used media, used celebrities to influence thought on the masses. But they're controlling this one. They're making sure it's done their way now, because they want to create faction against faction. So it's going to be new nationalist Christians against ingrained invading Muslims, I suppose. And while that's happening in the Middle East, it's going to be Muslims versus the Jews, and it's going to be absolute chaos for a long time. Say Jews, those people who are currently occupying the Middle East, we'll still call it that, But even that's supposed to happen, because that war they want to create is supposed to show once and for all the evils of Abrahamic religions and how we just need to leave them behind collectively as humanity, So look at them. They're all just killing each other everywhere. And all of us on the sidelines are watching them like, why can't they just let it go and let us live in peace? And why can't we just be happy and grow as humanity and go to the stars? They're holding us back, And a good example they'll be able to point to for centuries to come would be, do you remember the bloody horrible war all those religions caused for us? And then you throw the baby out with the bathwater. Islam, Judaism, Christianity, they're all the same. But they're not. They're not equal at all. The Jews hate Christianity. Christians are opposed to all of those things. And Muhammad was a false prophet, as far as I'm concerned. And even Christianity, even Islam itself, points to Christ as the only true savior. We actually read the damn thing. It's like there's the truth, the way in the life, which is Jesus, and then there's lies. And I don't think people can realize that until they see the bigger picture, which is this long-term history that we've been dealing with, and this long conspiracy that we've been unraveling for like the better part of like half a century now. And it's all pointing to a plan to foment a war between all the faiths, to then use that as the example of why we should abandon it all. And I think we're kind of on the cusp of that right now. I think they're in that raising the army stage, causing chaos to create these factions, and we could turn it around. These are just their plans. It doesn't mean they have to come true. I'm saying that, and this is what their agenda is. I think we as people can, if we're clever and talk and communicate and teach well enough, we can make people realize this before they kind of react rather than think and act. I think a lot of reactions happening right now, and they want people reacting rather than thinking seems to be what I'm noticing. So that's kind of, there you go. That's my quick take on all of that. Sorry if I went on for a while there.
No, I actually, I think for me, it's like starting to believe that the devil is real. And when you start to hear some of the real scary stuff that's going on, and you realize, like I've heard for so many years people saying it's a spiritual war. I didn't really understand that, but there's something there with Satanism, and that's, to me, it's so terrifying that I realize I'm going to need to be on the right side to survive this, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
I was listening to your interview there with Randy Goodwin there a few days ago, and that was hard to listen to, some of that stuff.
It is
and I've seen a couple of clips of children who were rescued from this stuff and talking quite candidly about killing babies and things like that. And I'm wondering, there's an actor there as well, Christopher Lee. I remember seeing this clip of him recently from I think it was maybe the 90s or the 80s, and he was asked about magic, and is there good magic and bad magic, and he said it's all bad. And he said that he felt like there would be satanic rituals going on in the UK that night across the country. Do you have any idea or any theories on the percentages of people who actually are victims of satanic ritual abuse?
Oh, well, right now, the entire population of the Western world is pretty much a victim of satanic abuse, I would say. I think COVID was a good example of a mass abuse ritual done, and psychological trauma being induced onto people on a mass scale. I think the MK Ultra program is a good example of what was done to people in the 60s, in the 70s. And I think they mastered it, traumatizing people to create alters, to create compartmentalization within the mind, so then they could activate sleeper agents in the future, with keywords, and bring out those alters to perform horrible tasks, and it's done through trauma. It's done through ritual abuse. You traumatize them to the point where to escape, they have to fracture their own mind and escape into it, And I think they mastered that, and now they're implementing it on a mass scale on the masses. I think that they're applying what they learnt in those early decades a long time ago, So I would say today, broadly speaking, we're all under some kind of satanic trauma mind control. Unless you kind of woken up. It's what we call people wake up, tend to snap out of that and see it for what it is. But many people are going along with the trauma that the media is telling them every day, and living on a fear-based day-to-day basis of fight or flight all the time, and are so fractured and terrified to go outside and live in this world that, they've gone insane. I'd say a good maybe 50 to 60% of the public are actually insane. And they would turn on you in a heartbeat if it meant protecting their own self-interests, and this is what we saw during the COVID event, I would like to think, most people turning in on themselves and full capitulation and conformity all the way throughout, because they were scared of the consequences of not doing such a thing. And they genuinely believed that people will be dropping like flies in the streets because they hook, line, and sinker completely believe everything they've been told. And they were traumatized by that event after the fact, and people have not been the same ever since. You can sense it, like something's wrong. Like no one trusts anybody anymore. Everyone's completely gone back into themselves and recoiled, and I feel like trauma was done on a mass scale during that entire event. People did die. People lost loved ones. People saw their parents go into hospital and never come out again. Because they were put immediately on these beds, and it was just this horrible situation. And it doesn't matter what, die of pneumonia or say it was COVID, and the numbers were so inflated. And then obviously what people were forced to do afterwards, to protect themselves, and the subsequent booster shots that came afterwards, and now it's all coming out now, the detrimental health effects of what that's doing to people. And that's traumatized everybody, because now people who have taken it are living in fear that they're going to drop dead at any moment.
Yeah.
Can you just imagine the actual fear people are
Yes.
living under, you know? And we might be so lucky because we avoided all of that, because we saw through it and it said no, maybe, if we're lucky, you know. Maybe I think even some truthers probably gave in, you know, for the fear, because it was very convincing. So there is that. Now, if you're just talking about the real victims of satanic family ritual abuse, I reckon it's about, as always, 2 to 3% of the population, probably. Power families are the ones doing this to them, to their own children, you know, and the elites are few and far in between. There's not a lot of them. We outnumber them massively, but they also have their own organizations where they're trafficking children as well. So I'd say I'm broadening it out from the 0.5% to 3%, because they have their own system of horrific abuse going on, where they are just taking like orphans and abandoned children and people who are left into the systems and all this type of stuff, and for their own horrible adrenochrome hunting, disgusting rituals, you know. And I'd say a lot of the children get killed, but the ones in the families don't get killed. They get traumatized and abused to the point where they become more of the same.
Yeah.
And it's not only just simply just because they want to create fractured personalities. They actually believe there's a spiritual purpose behind it. They genuinely believe like it makes them more powerful spiritually to have gone through the rituals and the trauma, because trauma opens you up to the spirit realm and it allows you to be more readily possessed by demons, which gives you power and influence and gain in the long run in their eyes. It turns them into shamans, basically, because, you know, shamanism often will tell you, you know, the reason they're a shaman is because they're more in tune with the spirit realm. And many of them will admit, you know, we were traumatized as children or forced to do these spirit quests where they almost died in the forests or something, you know, or something horrible happened to them until they eventually had this ability to interact with the spirit realm. In the West, they just do it through satanic ritual abuse. They force it on them at an early age, and the younger the better in their eyes. And it's what my daddy did to me. It's what I'm going to do to my children. It's that type of stuff. But I think, you know, so there's those, and I think anybody who's in the mainstream, in the spotlight, who is famous or very rich in a rich, powerful family, they probably went through it. They probably, and they are numb, probably dead inside, you know, if not even conscious of what they're doing half the time, and probably fully possessed by demons most of the time, and they're just running off the programming from their own family. And then, obviously, like I said, the abuse they then go out there and do to the innocent on top of all that. It's still a big number. Like even 2 to 3% is
That's
a
a
huge
lot.
number, you know, when you really think about it. But I would say it's likely that it's probably around that, and it's prolific. Like, and it's well known now as well. They're not even really hiding. This is the other scary thing. I feel like people are so apathetic, so wrapped up in their own fear, so desensitized and destroyed, and the morality is out the window, that even if people knew it was happening, they wouldn't do anything. On a mass scale, I reckon people would just say, well, what can I do about it? I got my own problems. It's that type of stuff. And you know, talking about it is the best we can really do right now, because it's dangerous. It's a dangerous, horrible world, and we don't really know fully. It's secretive. We don't really know exactly what we're up against. But people do get rescued, like those 2 children you were mentioning there. That people do break away from their families and try and tell other people, and they usually end up being victims of gang stalking and their own smear campaigns through the media. All sorts of things happen to them. You know, it's not easy. It's not easy to tell the truth in this world, especially if you've come out of that system. Like, so we can only talk about it and make hopefully more people become aware. But until we really deal with the root cause of these people who rule the world, who have this agenda, like, it's not going to stop. That's kind of the scary truth about all of this.
It was massive back in the 80s, wasn't it? The whole satanic.
Well,
and
people started
rituals
talking
against-
about it, and then the
Yeah.
media spun it as satanic panic, you know, and it's this delusion that people think like Satanists are everywhere. And they made it out to be like you're ridiculous if you think this, you know. No, there are not just Satanists around every corner and under every rock, you know. And they say, oh, it's like when the CIA came up with conspiracy theorists to try and debunk anybody who went against JFK or something like this, you know, like, and what the official narrative. But I think we can co-opt that term now and say, no, we're not. We're right. We have every right to be a conspiracy theorist, because you're all conspiring against us, you evil, heinous bastards. You know what I mean? Like, I think we can own that now. But in terms of the satanic panic, I'm worried about the Satanism that's everywhere, because the Satanists everywhere. So we should be panicking. You should be worried. I think we need to reclaim that. And Don't let it just be a smear and say, no, and that's the facts. And yeah, we're panicking for a good bloody reason, you know. But yeah, they always come up with these terms. Let's try and like dissuade the general population from wanting to be roped in with this label, you know. But I think we're living in a new age where labels hold no weight anymore. They mean nothing, especially to the younger generations. You know, Gen Z do not care if you call them racist, sexist, fascist, bigoted, homophobic, or anything. They do not care. They will laugh at you as you say it and say, yeah, and like by your standards, maybe I am all those things, but you're insane. So why should I care what you call me? You know, it's kind of, I think that's where we're at now. And I think as conspiracy theorists, we're in the same place now. Oh yeah, I am a conspiracy theorist, and you should be too, because you're in danger and we're in trouble. I think we need to start owning it. And I think we are there, to be honest. I think that's the level we're at now. And you've got to be delusional not to see it now. Like
that stigma is starting to lift, isn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Anybody and everybody's got a conspiracy podcast now because everyone sees it. Like, you know, and that's good. That's a good thing. Like the community has blown up, especially since 2020. But even before then, it was rolling quick, you know, with all the election stuff that was going on, and again with the rise of this leftist propaganda, you know. But even that was a bit of a control mechanism. They tried to get people into the Q stuff instead, you know, and trust the plan. And there's a secret war going on between the left and the right behind the scenes, that type of stuff. And false hope, you know, cope. But realistically, this is a battle between good and evil. And people need to realize, you know, it's not a political battle. It's not a battle really between countries or anything like that. This is between good people and bad people. That's really what it comes down to. And the sooner people realize that, the quicker we can solve the problem, I think. But as long as they're going to squabbling with each other over borders and over ideas and ideologies, then we're kind of always going to be at the bottom of the rung, and that pyramid's going to stand strong, you know. So I feel like we do need to snap people out a bit more so. But I have hope. Like I said, things have changed rapidly over the past decade, and more people are aware than ever. And I think they would have liked to have controlled the narrative of the truth getting out a bit more. But I think it's got away from them. I think they're panicking, to be honest. I think they're actually like a cornered animal right now, which is dangerous because they could lash out and do something silly at any moment just to try and maintain their power structure. But I feel like we have them on the run a little bit, which is why they're pushing for digital ID, shutdown of the internet, no under 16s anymore, you know, and all this type of stuff. I think they're trying to control the narrative and lock down hard and right now because they know, like, we're losing grip here. We're losing grip fast. So that's a good thing. That can only be a good thing, right? But we'll see. We'll see how it pans out.
I find myself wondering a lot about controlled opposition. Have you, like, someone for me like David Icke? I'm always going on about David Icke because I feel like David is, I could be wrong. I've been wrong about a lot of stuff, but I feel like David Icke is controlled opposition. And something actually you were saying there recently, you were talking about how we present ourselves is important. Unfortunately, you were kind of making the argument that if you look like you haven't got your shit together, then no one's going to listen to what you have to say, especially if it's things they don't want to hear.
Basically,
and I feel like with David Icke, he was a BBC presenter who knew well how to carry himself, and when he wanted to be a Green Party politician, he was always in a suit and tie. But when he reinvented himself and he went on the Terry Wogan show, he wore a shiny tracksuit and his hair was messed up, and even after he was ridiculed and mocked, he went onto Irish TV, the equivalent of the same kind of a show was called the Late Late Show, and he wore the same shiny tracksuit, even though he had been mocked about that, you know. And for me, it felt like he was like an actor bringing the show to another country or another television channel. Do you look at some of these guys and wonder why, like David Icke has just been recently allowed back onto YouTube, and but all his interviews were there anyway. So they weren't, to me, it felt like pretend censorship for him. You know, he's banned in all these countries, but every interview he's ever given is still up on YouTube, including BBC have some of his videos up there still.
I think we need to be careful about pointing fingers and just calling anybody and everybody a shit under the sun, because we're a paranoid bunch in the conspiracy community. So I get it, you know, and we should be wary of that. It is a real thing. You know, there's plenty of examples where like the feds have been seen to be infiltrating movements and trying to control them from the inside. And, you know, someone went on this, someone called Connor, who was telling a story on his channel, which I thought was quite funny. And it was about this small group of people in America started their own commune to break away from the government type of thing. And when it all came out in the wash, like out of the 10 people that were in this commune, like 7 of them were feds and only 3 people were actually real out of all of it. And it's kind of like, this is what I mean. Like it became this ridiculous situation where it was just like, this is what happens, you know? So we have to believe in the truth community. Yes, there are probably feds. There are probably controlled opposition. There are probably people co-opting the movement and leading it down the wrong way. And that's their job. Absolutely. So I'm not saying no, don't think that's not the case. We need to be wise. We need to be careful. Absolutely. But at the same time, we're not in a position to know who that is, really. We're actually not. Like, we're quite ignorant from our perspective. And these are like trained actors. They can pull it off really well. So you've got to kind of be very careful with just, because you can end up like accusing your own brethren who are on your side as well if you're not careful. And then I think that's kind of what they want, that paranoia. Like, who can we trust? Can we even trust each other? So there's no cohesion. So I'd be careful just to say David Icke is a shill. I don't know. I've never met the guy. I've never had a conversation with him. I feel like if I could talk with him, maybe I could get a clue, you know, and then maybe I could keep that to myself at the same time, because I will never know if he's real or not. It does seem suspect that he was allowed on mainstream television to make that example of himself and his turquoise tracksuit, as you mentioned, you know what I mean, talking about love, light, and consciousness, and how we're all one, and how this is his color that best melds with his frequency and vibration, and going down quite the New Age route. And that tracks, you know, yeah, the New Age religion is what they want for the New World Order. So to have a figurehead going out there kind of spreading this idea, becoming a de facto leader of it within a mainstream sense, because he was on a mainstream program, you know, then yeah, that would be good for the New World Order in the long run to start giving these ideas out now. He did mention that all of his ideas were downloaded through an entity that talks to him. And a lot of his ideas line up very well with the Theosophical Society and Alice Bailey's teachings and Helena Blavatsky's teachings. And there is a teaching within that set of rules and thought processes that they should externalize themselves and let people know that they exist and who really runs the show in a drip feed fashion. And David Icke would be playing that role. He's externalizing the hierarchy. If you listen to his 8-hour lectures, yeah, he gives a lot of truth. You know, he really lays out like just how the hierarchical structure of secret societies work. He's not lying. But then he throws in at the end this whole consciousness expansion, 5th dimensional frequency, vibration, love, everything is love stuff, you know, which is not the answer. Jesus Christ is the only answer and solution to all of this. So it's a bit of truth with a lie. But then at the same time, I can step back and realize, okay, well, we don't actually battle against flesh and blood. I think David Icke may genuinely believe he is doing what's best for humanity. He really believes what he's preaching. And he is out there doing the work because he actually genuinely thinks this is the solution to our problems. He might actually believe that, and his intentions are really good. But the people that control see this is a useful idiot. Let's give him a platform. And let's make it seem like he's being censored, but he's not really. He'll think he is, and he'll play as though he's really being censored. But we'll give his platform back, and we'll make people think he's real. And it's possible he's just being behind the scenes being pulled, and he doesn't even know it. You know, I think there's a lot of that going on as well. So I would have faith and believe in the Almighty Father in heaven that anybody can be saved, including David Icke, and even he can come to the truth in Jesus Christ. You know, so I would never want to besmirch anybody or accuse them of being anything intentionally. I think sometimes it's best to assume ignorance than malevolence. I think that's probably the best, safest bet, you know? And even those who are evil and too far gone, they're not too far gone. That's a lie. I think they can come back. I think they can be born again. And I think they can become a soldier for the good rather than a pawn for evil. You know, I think that is always possible. So I would always offer an olive branch to anybody in any community, no matter what level they're at or how evil they think they are, that no, you can be saved and you can be born again and you can get right with God at any time at all. So again, I don't know David Icke. There's some observations. I was there in the early days. I watched all of his stuff too, you know, when I was first waking up. And yeah, you know, maybe in many ways, I think he was a big part of a lot of people's awakening because he did, again, he says a lot of truth. But when you get down to it, it's basically Gnosticism. You know, the demiurge, the archons, the evil prison planet system, you know, the soul traps and all this type of stuff. It's pure Gnosticism at its core. And wisdom and knowledge and self-ascension, Sophia, is the only way to break free of the illusory prison that we trapped ourselves in to get back to the divine architect of the universe, the true source, outside of this. And Yahweh is the demiurge, who's a dumb god who doesn't really know what he's doing, whose god is in this flesh prison, and he very much goes along that kind of narrative with his own language and his own way. But I think he believes that was divine knowledge downloaded to him from his spirit guide. So he thinks it's the truth, and that he really thinks we need to break free, and he's genuinely probably sincere, which is why he's so convincing. Because he is sincere. He believes it. I don't think all controlled opposition knows they're controlled opposition, I guess is what I'm trying to say here as well. So to what level do you want to stop pointing fingers and accusing people? I mean, Russell Brand's another good example with the truths. I never trusted him as far as I can throw him, and I still don't now. Maybe he is controlled opposition, I don't know. But I've never met the guy. Maybe he can convince me otherwise with the conversation. But at the same time, this sudden conversion to Christianity, I already know there's an agenda for that not to be organic. And his connections already to theosophical thought and the Fabian society, these other things, it's kind of, come on. You've got to wonder, when you know the broader kind of agendas at play, these people fit that bill quite well. So I'd have to be careful. I'd have to be tentative. But at the same time, I don't know. I can never say for certain. So I'm not going to say, 100%. They're definitely a shill. They're paid and bought, and they're out there doing the evil work for Lucifer. I don't know that. I think a lot of shill calling happens on smaller levels as well, even small channels on YouTube, and for good reason. I get it, because controlled opposition is a real thing that does exist, and it's a real tactic used to destabilize movements. It really is. But we have to be so careful with who we accuse and who we don't accuse, because we just don't know from our level. I mean, at the end of the day, if you're getting right and you're learning the truth, and somebody's saying something that doesn't align with the truth, you should be smart enough to know that, okay, well, I'm not going to listen to that and move on. Okay, you should be wise enough and have done the work and the research enough to know something quite wrong. That doesn't sound right. That doesn't line up with what I've learned. So maybe I'm not going to listen to that part of what they have to say, and just move on. Don't make it your life's work to go out there and bring them down, that type of thing. Because I feel like that's not conducive towards a healthy community that's actually trying to go towards something productive and useful and teach each other. Don't become like a shill hunter is like one of my main tips on the Tips of Truth series I do, just simply because I've seen where it goes. It creates nothing useful in the long run. It causes nothing but division, and no one trusts each other anymore, and everything just falls apart, and there's no cohesion, and it just becomes a bitter, horrible environment to be a part of. And it's kind of great. Well, that's ruined. No progress is happening here for at least another decade now, until everyone's got over it or moved on, or new people come. And they're going to do the same again. I think some controlled opposition, from what I've seen, what they tend to do, and this is just from my own experience being in this for a while and being a part of like communities and groups, they tend to be small, very small channels. This is usually what I've noticed, who will position themselves within a community as like a small voice at first. They'll befriend leaders of the communities and sing their praises in the early days. Then they'll get the bigger communities to endorse them because of all this, we're all in it together, we're all loving it, I love your work, blah, 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 And then once that endorsement has happened, they'll tend to then turn on the bigger ones and say, isn't it strange that they do this? Or why haven't they talked about this yet? Or blah, 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 and then they'll try and cause that discord originally. Then they'll get an army gathering below them slowly. And then the day will come where they'll denounce the person that they originally said was great and say, we should be the ones leading the movement instead, because they aren't saying what needs to be said. They don't have the guts to say it like we do, and then they end up trying to become the leaders through that method. I've seen that happen plenty of times, actually, over the past decade. In Mandela Effect, Flat Earth, Tartaria, the Little Season community, whatever big topic comes around that kind of moves the research forward, these groups turn up, and you get the first initial people who started it, who were really just looking for the truth. Then you get this other faction or group of content creators that suddenly turn up and ingrain themselves into it. And then they'll turn on the big ones and say, we should be leading it, cause a war, and then it gets messy, it gets ugly, and then usually once it's all just either it's destroyed and then no one makes the videos anymore or something, or the little ones try and position themselves as the only arbiters of truth on the matter from now on, or something like that. And that seems to be I've seen it work. It works, so that's probably the method they're using. And I feel like it's like it's only the big channels who could be controlled. I really don't think that's the case. I've talked to some. I'm a big channel now. I wasn't, for a long time. So people think I'm a shill, but I know I'm not. So I can't go around saying all these other big channels are definitely shills either. Now I'm in that position now where it's like I know how you can actually get to 100,000 subscribers if you play your cards right and be clever about it and don't say the wrong thing at the wrong possible sensitive time. Then maybe you won't get censored or strikes, and maybe you can go for the long haul if you're lucky. It can happen. So so I've talked to bigger channels these days, and it's like, yeah, these are just people. Good people half the time, some maybe not better than others, but it's like they worked hard to get where they are, and these are the ones that are going to be attacked. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
That seems to because once you get to a level, it's like we can't let them get any further, so we need to start doing some damage control or slandering or tarnish their image or something like that. And people have tried with me a few times, but the sad thing is, when people actually look into me, there's nothing to find. Because I'm not a member of a Freemason fraternity, and I don't have a history in the occult or anything like this. There's nothing there, So I think people have threatened me in the past, we're going to find your dirty secrets and we're going to show the world who you really are. And here I am 3 years later, and that never came out because there's nothing to find. And I think that's what you'll find most of the time. These are just people who make videos who just have something to say. So be careful who you go around calling a shill, because you just do not know. I even when I was a small channel, I used to do it. I used to go around thinking every big channel's a shill, and I used to talk about them on my channel, and say, yeah, I know, why are they doing this? What's this going on here? What's this? And I had that attitude as a smaller channel. I call it small channel syndrome. I think it's a real thing. It's why am I not the one that's big? Why am I not the one people are listening to the truth to? These bigger channels aren't saying the real truth. You know what I mean? It's kind of, you go out there and become this shill hunter, and I get it, because I used to do it. I used to have this whole thing against somebody called Lord Stephen Christ, who claimed himself to be Jesus, who had this cosmological model called the concave Earth. And I went after him. I was like, no, you are controlled opposition. You are here to make anybody who thinks about alternative cosmology look insane. You're doing your job really well, blah, 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 And maybe he was. I don't really know. He started a cult. He got really weird. I think he's dead now. He died eventually, but I hope he came to Christ in the end. I really do, because it's kind of sad. But during that time, I get it. I get why people do it, because I've been there. But maybe he wasn't. Maybe he was just somebody who was lost. In hindsight, I look back and it's kind of like, what was it? Why was I doing that? And I know why I was doing that. I was being selfish. I was trying to make a name for myself. I was doing it for my own self gain, in my own purposes. I felt like it's what I needed to do. I felt like this is the best way to get myself publicity and also to bring down the evil bastards while I'm at it type of attitude. But it was all self-righteous, wrongly placed nonsense. You know what I mean? The spirit behind it's awful, and it creates a living nightmare for everybody involved. It really does. It's not nice for the person being attacked. It's not nice for me who was doing the attacking, because I spent a good part of my life looking over my shoulder, worried that they'd be coming after me or something. You know what I mean? It creates this paranoid atmosphere all around. It's terrible. It destroys people and communities very quickly. So there's kind of my take on all of that from my own experiences. Are they controlled? Who's controlled? I don't know. Where I stand it now, yeah. I'd rather just do my own thing and not attack other people from now on. That's kind of what I've learned. That's what I'm going to do. People can attack me. I'm not going to respond. That's just my attitude towards it, because you don't want to get into that. That's my experience. So there you go. Does that help?
Yeah, I think that's good advice, because I am that guy. I'm like Mulder. I trust nobody, and there's people out there that I want to believe, but I just don't. Do you know what I mean? But maybe I'll try and turn over a new leaf in the new year. I'll take some of that advice.
Look, I've been there. I've seen some people, and I'm suspect of a lot of people too. Don't get me wrong. I am. I've got people on my radar who I'm looking at. What's your game? What are you really all about, you know? But would I just go and attack them on my channel? No.
No.
I'd keep it to myself. It's like, if you've got nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all. It's kind of how I'm trying to live with this channel's ethos, you know? And at the end of the day, it's not about attacking other truthers or people in the community. It's just about saying the truth. You know, the bigger picture truth, like what we're really up against, you know, the source of the problem, not the trivial frontline battles we have to do on the ground level as truthers, dealing with like these, like I said, agents of chaos within our midst type of thing. It's like, well, let's get to the source of that issue. Who sent the agents? Let's deal with them. let's talk about those people. Let's expose that, and that problem will then fall away. That's kind of my ethos behind it. But other people don't see it the same as me. I get it, you know, and it's always going to be the case. Like, there's always going to be someone out there accusing somebody of something.
Yeah, and I think it's a good point, because even if you go on social media there, like, and if you click on any post, you'll see comments. So there's people constantly abusing each other. Like, a lot of these numbers said to be bots as well. And even on Twitter, Elon Musk said something. There's a mad number of, he said, bots that were on it apparently, what they know of. You know, so it seems to be like, even this thing you're on about would say, like, this constructed battle of the masses between Muslims and Christianity, like, and this constant stuff. Even Instagram, I think, is what I use most, and I find that is terrible for, like, you go onto Instagram Reels, and the way the algorithm is, the longer you spend looking at a video, obviously it's going to be recommending the same kind of content, and constant stuff like of over in England, and seeing like Muslim heavy streets, and they were the reels that I've seen for a while, even last week. I was like, fuck it, if you're looking at this constantly, like, your whole thing is going to be brought down into these bad vibrational energies and stuff. And it seems to be something that's by design. Maybe it's not by design, but by design it plays into this elite, I suppose, kind of, this whole movement of trying to lower vibrations, or whatever way you want to do it, plays into that.
It's divide and conquer, fundamentally. I mean, I give this good example. It's not just on religious lines or community lines or traditional lines. It's on gender lines, like man and woman. If there's a duality, they'll turn them against each other. Where there's duality, there should be harmony. Where man and woman exist, they should live together with their differences and flow together. In spite of their differences, they work together in harmony, you know. But the whole point of like the satanic system is, no, that duality needs to be chaos. They need to be against each other, not with each other. So they do that everywhere, including something like men and women. And we see that. We've seen that over the past, especially the past 20 years, maybe 10 years more so, where you've got the red pill movement, which is anti-woman. And then you've got the feminist movement, which is anti-man. You know, and the red pill movement is like a reactionary movement to the feminism that was taught to young women for the past 3 decades, you know, more so. In the more hardcore sense, it stops just being about the right to work and vote, and now it's become about men are evil and women should just reject all forms of masculinity and turn men into women, you know, basically. It got weird in the later stages, you know, and that's where the reactionary movement came back. And then you get this red pill movement which grows, which is the manosphere, you know, men going their own way, MGTOW and all that type of stuff. And it all seems organic and natural reactions to natural problems. Men were oppressive to women. Women rebelled and freed themselves. Women then became more authoritarian and got positions of power. Men reacted to this loss of power and then became their own way. It seems like a natural process, doesn't it? Like, and it's just division after division. But when you actually look at like things like media and social media's involvement in all of this, it's not. No, none of it was natural. It was all orchestrated and controlled from the very beginning. You know what I mean? And you. Especially today, a good example is you were talking about algorithms. So men and women's comment feeds are tailored to them individually. A man will not get the same comments to a video as a woman will get on the same video.
I've seen this last year. Yeah,
and a woman showed this. She said, "I got my boyfriend next to me watching the same video," and it was a video of a woman that they were watching saying something very inflammatory, just absolutely like, screw men. This basically like men are nothing but pigs and useless and blah blah blah, and they need to do the X, Y, and Z. And if they're not doing that, they're not a real man. Blah blah. Just something that is just going to rile everybody up from every angle, you know. And you have to wonder if that was just AI bot themselves saying all that nonsense, because it's just too perfect of a bait for a reaction and engagement. You'll get engagement from everybody, you know. And so this woman was looking at this rage bait video, and she says, my comment sections is full of women saying, you go, girl, yeah, no, like, screw all men, yeah, he had that coming, that type of stuff, you know what I mean? Like, like, these men don't understand, like, men are just idiots, men are just children, you know, that type of attitude. And it's kind of, yeah, you go get yours, you go do what you want to do, yeah, screw him, oh, you deserve to be treated better, you know, this sort of stuff. I think it was literally about a guy stood her up or something like that because he had to work. I think that's what the video was actually about, you know. And it's coming back to me now. But then the man's comment section was, what women do not appreciate men. Like, the man has to go and work. Why can't she understand that they need to do this in order to provide for her? Like, it's kind of like women. Is basically all of his comments were tailored towards women are evil and don't appreciate men, and men are better off without them. And all the women's comments were tailored to men don't appreciate women, women are better off without them. That's what they're all basically. That's the overall message. Yeah. And that's social engineering. They are socially engineering a division between the sexes that is not actually real. It's not. It has no reason to be there. Do you get what I mean? It's kind of, and I think they've been doing that for a long time. And that's just one division. They're doing that to religion, politics, to everything. Everything. You know, they're doing it in schools. They're doing any line you can think of. They're creating a wider divide between it, and it's all orchestrated. And AI algorithms have just made it 1,000 times worse, especially with the whole bot farming situation and the illusory support for certain ideas that gives. You know, the view counts that aren't actually there, type of stuff. But then you look at the comments, and it's kind of like these bot comments, these bot accounts saying the inflammatory things, saying those divisive things, and then tailoring it to individuals, and it's kind of. We have never seen anything like this before. Like, it used to just be, you know, the 6 o'clock news on the 5 channels you could broadcast to and tune into at one point. But now it's, we're in trouble. Like, I think the only way this can turn around is if we turn it off. And who's going to do that now? How are we going to turn off social media? You know, how are we going to turn off? Like, I don't know. I don't know how we can reverse this. I feel like it's like we've crossed the threshold and there's no coming back when it comes to this type of thing. I think the only defense we have against this now is knowledge. Like, and I mean real spiritual discernment type of knowledge, not just knowing a load of stuff. I mean, like, getting to grips with the spiritual reality we actually live in, and the consequences of the impacts of these, and know the weapons used against us. It's like, we need to start learning about our enemy. Like, people need to understand why they would do this to them and how they would do this to them. And maybe we have a defense then, because magic only works when you don't know how the trick works. It's only impressive when you don't know how it works. You know what I mean? It only works when you don't understand it. But if you can understand the method, the trick fails. And I think that's how rickety this whole illusion is that they've got. Which is why I think they're scared. Which is why I think there's a big mass to shut down free speech on many levels now, and to limit people's ability to see alternative thought. You know, and again, you talk about social engineering. They're doing it right now with, like they said, this. It's no under 16-year-olds on social media in Australia. And I think they're going to try to implement it in the UK as well. And it's kind of, I think I don't know if it was an Onion article, maybe it was satirical, but something about over 60s aren't allowed on social media either, or something like this. And it sounds like a fun joke, you know, let's get the boomers off social media, they're ruining it for everybody type of stuff. But I could see that possibly in the realms of possibility, because if you can limit older generations from seeing what is really going on, they can still continue the dream and the lie that the world is what it used to be when they were younger, which it's not. We're not living in that world anymore, and their advice is terrible for younger generations because the landscape has changed. But if they don't know that, because they don't have access to see the world for what it actually is now, then that actually means they'll keep voting and supporting the old systems and the old regimes, the left-right paradigms, Labour or Conservative, because they still think that's the world they live in, where that works, you know. But then if under 16s have no access as well at the same time to news, alternative media of any sort about what's going on in the world, then the only place they get their information is the school of how the world works. That's not good. That's a bad place to be, because that is just propaganda at its finest, at its highest form, you know. So That's what it really is. That's the trying to social engineer our children now by limiting their access to alternative sources for information and controlling the flow of information they get through the schools alone. So anybody under 16 who's still in high school and below, they learn the history and facts from the winners and the ones who wrote the books that get taught in those schools. They learn from the masters why they're the slave class basically, and they should be happy and have nothing. That's what's going to happen, because social media, for all of its problems, at the same time is a double-edged sword for the elites. It is teaching children about things and to have opinions about things that the mainstream media would not want them to have. So that's why I think that's why they're seeing this fearful crackdown now, and I can see it coming. I can see. It looks bleak. So I can really say it looks bleak, but at the same time, I think the younger generations are quite impressive in many ways. A lot of them aren't. A lot of them are completely brain rotted to hell and they're doomed. But I think there's a good contingent of the younger generations which are not taking it. Like, not even playing ball, not even a little bit. Like, not even a little bit. They are born into a world that offers them nothing, and they want nothing from it. Like, they are going to burn it down and build something new. I can see it coming. And they are not going to play the game. Like, they're just not, because they can see it's a zero sum. There's no benefit to them getting involved in the system. Like, and as a result, a new system's going to get made, and the old one's going to fall away. And I don't think that's what the New World Order intended. I think they didn't want that, which is why they're trying to control that now and again limit the information to even younger generations. But I think Gen Z, Gen Alpha, probably as well. But right now they can't be controlled by the teachers. Apparently, they're the ones like primary school and high school, and the teachers just are falling away. They won't listen. They won't do anything. They won't sit still. Like, they say, "Oh, I blame the millennial parents. Like, they're not being good parents." It's kind of no. I don't think it's that. I think they just see through bullshit because they're a generation who was raised on social media and actually sees the world for what it really is, and they understand how algorithms work really well. So they know when they're being played and when they're not being played. They're actually quite clever. You know what I mean? Like, but we fell for it, like the millennial generations and the older generations, because we didn't understand at the time just what tools and weapons were being used against us. I think the younger generations know, everything's game to be addictive and to mess with our dopamine, and that we should be detoxing from it, and that smoking's bad and that we shouldn't drink. And they understand all this stuff now. You know what I mean? I think they're like doing a different mindset. It's like, I'm not going to have sex before marriage, and no, I'm going to exercise regularly. I'm going to eat healthily. I'm going to avoid GMOs, and I'm going to do like they know how to live through the world better than we did, because they have been made heavily aware of the horrible control systems that are real and are around us. Which is why I think there's this rise of conspiracy as well in popularity. I think it's getting away from the controllers with these younger generations. I don't think they know what to do. So it's just lock down everything and try and hit a reset in some way and see if we can get the next generation by just not letting them see the social media. So, but I think it's too late. I think there's too many young people now who one day will take control. They will have the reins. They will start owning their own businesses and companies. They'll start becoming the CEOs of places eventually when they get older, who know what's really going on. And that's going to be radical. I don't think we're quite prepared for what's going to come. I think the millennial my generation, we were too late. Like, I think it's on them now, is what I'll say. Well, I'll be there to support them all the way and do as much as we can, but I think we missed our chances to take control. I really think we did. It's just getting the boomers aren't letting go. They're not letting go of the reins of power. You know what I mean? I think we'll be too old by the time we get control. And I think it'll be a case of we need to let the young people do it. I feel like that's what we're going to be when we're like 60 or something like that. We'll be handing it over to the 40-year-olds, and it's kind of like, guys, fix this mess that we made for ourselves in a way. I kind of feel like that's where it's going. I'm doing the best I can to help them now. I'm only 33, but I feel old already. I'm not going to lie. I really do feel old already. Like, I've seen too much stuff. I've been through too much already. I feel like I'm washed up, and I don't know what I can really do to implement much change now other than just talk about these things. But I feel I could not even imagine getting back into the corporate game. Like, I've been in that world of management, and it killed me. It almost killed me. you know, the stress and the pressure and everything else. And I don't feel like they're going to play that game. I don't know what they're going to do, but they're going to do something else. And it's going to change the world forever. I can't even imagine. I think they're wise enough to know it can't go the way of technocracy. We can't let technology rule us. We can't let AI become our god. I think they know that. Like, they can sense that it's wrong. And let's just see where it goes. I'm hopeful. That's my optimistic take. Like, I think there is
good to be
hope.
optimistic though, because there's too many people out there being pessimistic about the whole lot. If you're just if you're constantly pessimistic about something like that, like what's going to come from it? You know, you have to be optimistic.
Yeah,
and especially kids. So you said it as well. Like they are in the majority, they're rejecting this woke bullshit as well. Like, you know,
yeah,
which is great to see.
Yeah, exactly. Just don't let them control that reaction to the woke stuff into the way they want it to go. Because they have a plan. They were anticipating, well, we'll get people so pissed off with the woke stuff, they'll snap back and do something violent. It's not working out that way right now. But it can. They can still pull that off if we're not clever. Because they're going to keep doing stuff that's going to make us want to get violent. That's for sure. But the longer we can hold out not being violent, I think the more the system is crumbling. I think they're losing grip by the second, and they're desperate for us to do something stupid so they can push that button and justify the next step. But the longer we make them wait, the more it just crumbles and falls away, and the less chance they have of actually doing anything. I think that's what people need to realize. It's kind of not reacting is the best solution. That's what I've realized. Like, if we react, they've got us. They've got us for another decade, and we have to wait another decade because they're going to implement laws and changes and everything that's going to control us for even longer and cement they get the foothold in power back again for just a little bit longer, you know. And that's the game they're playing. But right now, I think everyone knows, especially when even like, you don't have to be a conspiracy theorist, even just the political world, like, you know, Labour and Conservative, they're over. The time is done. Like, the old way of doing things is dead, and everyone knows it. They have failed. They have failed us on a mass scale. And people are like, oh, well, you know, maybe vote for reform instead, or maybe they'll change things. Everyone knows that's bullshit too. Everyone's like, no. The system is failed us. It doesn't matter who you vote for, government wins. We know that now. Like, I think everyone knows this now. So, but like I said, so what? All they can do is ferment revolution and cause absolute chaos that upends everything, and hopefully they can reorchestrate the chaos into their image. We're not going to give them that either. Don't give them that revolution. Don't give them that. Like, that's the chaos they need for the phoenix to rise out of the ashes, as they completely symbolize in all the secret societies all the time. Like, do not give them that. You know, not revolution and revolt are two different things. They want revolt. They want bloody war. An uprising. Christ came and gave a revolution. He really did. He changed the way of the order of things. That's different. And that's what we need to do, like Christ did. We need to start preaching the truth boldly and without fear, and it will start a real revolution of the mind, of the soul, of the spirit. And that's the only way we're going to see any change. That's actually useful and good, and it's called manifesting the kingdom of heaven here on earth. That's what it's called in a Christian sense. That's how we describe it, you know. We are citizens of the kingdom, and we need to start behaving like them here right now. We're not citizens of Ireland or the United Kingdom or the world in the global sense, you know, as they like to do it with the EU and the United Nations. Borders and defining lines here on the earth are not what we should be defining ourselves as. We are children of God. We are citizens of his kingdom in heaven, and we need to manifest that kingdom right here, right now. And that's the only way. The only way we can do that is by changing people's hearts and minds, not revolt, not bloody warfare. Nothing good has changed thanks to war. It really hasn't. And I'm not trying to be a liberal lefty lovey when I say that type of thing. I'm not coming at it from that angle, because I understand that ideology is horrible, you know. I understand the conservative desire for order and strict order and rigid, like, we need to fight for what our traditions and what's right and all this type of thing. And if you don't fight, you'll lose it. I get all that attitude, but really, has it really led to anything good? Has it stopped the mass genocide of millions of the 20th century? You know, has it really? Like, as far as I'm concerned, every war is a banker's war, and we've all died because they have orchestrated those wars to begin with. You can romanticize it as much as you want afterwards. It was never about honor or borders or king and country or anything like that. All these wars that we've been fighting, at least for the past 200 years, have been controlled, orchestrated genocide events to implement control and further the New World Order. And we need to get to grips with that now. The next war isn't going to fix things. And that's where I am. And that's a hopeful message, because it means put down your guns, open a book, start thinking, start talking to each other, start humanizing each other once again. Like, so stop believing what social media is telling you about what other people are, you know. And this is it. Like, we are being socially engineered. Like, and as soon as you realize that, you're no longer being socially engineered. Like, it only works as long as you're ignorant of the fact that that's being done to you. So keep having these conversations. That's what I would say. I think we're doing a good job. We're doing it now, aren't we? And people are listening, and I think embolden one another to keep doing it.
I think I'd like to hear you interviewing David Icke. Is there anyone that you have on your radar that you're hoping to talk to?
I'd like to talk to David Icke as well. I would really love to talk with Sargon of Akkad. I would like to talk with him, Carl Benjamin. But I don't think he's going to give me the time of the day. But I'm going to keep pushing for it. I'm going to put the call out there to have a conversation with that guy. If anyone's listening, who, like, you know, can just send him the messages. You should talk to Paul from Understanding Conspiracy. You know, and I mean, who knows? You never know. Honestly, it's amazing, like, how small this world actually is when you're actually in it. And I want to try and bridge that gap between, like, the because in a way he's like a truther in his own sense. But he's more grounded than me. He's more about the politics, the ideologies, the boots on the ground, you know, what's really going on right here, right now type stuff. You know, he's like a news guy, you know, and he's got his degrees in philosophy and ideologies, you know, and he's very much in the system, trying to change the system, keeping up appearances type guy. Would never say anything too outrageous or conspiratorial, you know. He's a serious type. But I feel like we're getting to that point now where I could be like, come on, Carl, come on. You got to see it right now. These people aren't just stupid. They're actually evil and have an agenda. You do know that, right? Like, you must have seen enough now. I feel like we're at that level where we can start bridging that gap and reaching out to these otherwise more grounded truth tellers and get them to finally accept that we've been played for about 250 years by secret societies. Like, that's really what's going on here, you know. Maybe we can get to that. That would be great. I'm going to try my best, but you just don't know. I have just reached out to someone. Have you heard of Richard IV, a YouTube channel? Yeah,
I listen to him regularly.
Yeah, so do I. Yeah, that'd
be a good conversation as well. I'd like to hear
I'm talking with him in a couple of weeks, so that's good.
Oh, great! That's
on
cool.
my channel, yeah.
Because he hasn't been around very long, maybe a couple of years, I think. Well, maybe I've only discovered him.
Yeah. Well, it seems like he's grown quite quickly. He's only been around for a couple of years, like you said. But I can tell he's kind of come from that red pill MGTOW, more new age world, and he's come to Christianity probably quite recently. And he's got his own way of, like, expressing it. He's gone more down the traditional route, and he is one of those people who's kind of can see the problems, you know, with the Islam and the lack of identity. And I really appreciate his takes on things, but at the same time, I don't think he's quite as conspiratorial as I am about it. And I'd like to just talk with him to get him to lay out, because I think he's fantastic at laying out the problems that we have right in front of us. And I think I've heard him say some really grounded things along the way, and I don't think he's being fooled quite as easily as, like, a lot of these commentators are. I think even he can see, like, long term, I think the solutions that are being presented within Christendom are wrong. I think he can see this nationalist revolt idea coming as, like, yeah, this probably isn't the way we should be going, but, you know, I can see why. I just want to have that conversation with him. Like, how do you actually see this? You know, and I think it's going to be a good one. He's like me. I think he can talk for England if I just ask him one question. So I'm going to just let him go for a while, and I'll stay quiet for that one, and then I'll just interject every now and then with, but what about the secret societies? You know, what do you know about things? I'm just going to prompt him on it, and maybe he'll reject it, maybe he won't. But again, I think we're at that time now where you've got to give us our due now. You got to listen to us now. You can't just say, no, you guys are crazy anymore. I think we're at that point now. I think maybe the conspiracy theorists were right. I think they were right. I think everyone's feeling... Yeah, everyone's feeling it, everything.
Yeah.
The difference between, what is it? What did they say? The difference between a conspiracy theory and truth is about 10 years, something like that.
Yeah, it's
Give it
about
10
a year now at this stage.
Yeah, give it 2 months now. Yeah.
Are you familiar with a comedian by the name of Alistair Campbell?
I've heard that name. Now
Yeah.
I'm good with faces, not names. I probably
Yeah.
recognize him if you show it to me.
I think, yeah, if you get a chance, you should look him up. I think you and him would have a good conversation as well. He's all in on Jesus, but he's a very funny guy as well and very witty. And I think you'd appreciate his takes on things as well.
Alistair Campbell. I'll look into. I'll send him a message.
Yeah.
Yeah,
do.
That's the thing.
Paul-
I've got to this point where I can actually start doing that because I've got like over 100,000 subscribers now. That seems to be like one of those thresholds where people take you seriously. So I can actually message somebody who has like 200,000, 300,000 subscribers, and they'll actually respond now. So I'm like careful. Like, who do I want to try and like ask? Who do I like a kid in the candy store? It's like, who do I reach out to next? Who am I going to get to? Who am I going to speak to now?
Power.
All this power, yeah, and I've got this heavy responsibility, and I don't know. Like, I'll talk to anybody. This is who. So I'm not even like being too like selective necessarily. I'm like, yeah, I'll
Clearly,
talk to
because you came on our show, we've got like 300 subscribers. When John reached out to you, I wouldn't have reached out to you. He goes,
Gotta try.
He goes like, Paul Stops is going to come on.
No,
It's like,
it's a
you're fucking
trier.
killing me. Like, yeah, crazy.
No,
man, crazy.
I love talking to anybody and everybody. I don't care how big your channel is, really, because these conversations need to happen, and I'm happy to have them. Like, whoever, like, it doesn't matter who's listening. Like, if 300 people is 300 people, that's great. Let's talk to them. You know what I mean? I'm not like against that at all. And I've had some of the best conversations I've had with people with smaller channels. Really have, because I find a lot of bigger channels are too scared to talk about certain things. Like, they don't want to talk about certain things,
Especially on YouTube.
Exactly.
Like
Yeah.
that,
So I've had some great conversations with like really small channels, and this has been a good one. I've had fun.
Paul, what's your opinion, before I let you go, what's your opinion on this Age of Disclosure documentary? Have you watched it?
Is it about aliens and UFOs?
Yeah, and the whole thing that like you've Marco Rubio there as well, who's on the administration, he's coming out saying that these alien biologistics is the term, I think it is, and this legacy program that was been going on for 80 years in America. It's like black budget, and they are reverse engineering these alien technologies, and this push towards disclosure. What's your opinion on all that? Like, are you suspicious of the whole lot?
I've got a lot of takes on aliens. I've got so many angles on how they're going to take this. Fundamentally, I am of the firm belief that we are in an enclosed system. I'm not going to tell you what the shape of the Earth is. I don't know. I wasn't there when God made the damn thing. But I know it's not vast, infinite space going on forever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever, and with trillions and billions and gazillions of systems and planets and possible. I don't think it's any of that stuff. I think it's all very close. I think it's still a big distance for us. Like, I think it's very far away, like, to get to like a planet still, even by our standards, you know what I mean? Like, but like 1,000 miles up is a huge feat for humanity. But it's like 80,000 to 100,000 miles, you know what I mean, to get to these places. And even that's like an impossibility, really, by our standards. The fuel required for that type of thing, we're just not capable of doing that still, And they say to us like, oh, we can't get past the Van Allen belt of radiation or something, or we've never really got above like Earth. So they say all this stuff to you, like, we don't get that far, and just forget that the moon thing ever happened, So let's pretend that didn't happen, because that just breaks that rule immediately. But whatever. So I think it's an enclosed system. So there aren't aliens. Let's just rule that out. That's the lie, and they've been working on that lie for a long time, about 100 years or so, give or take. Since War of the World and that broadcast where people started shooting down their own grain towers, worried the tripods had turned up because they believed the radio broadcast was real and not fiction. So I think they've been testing the idea of aliens through propaganda for a while. Star Trek, Star Wars, all that type of stuff, these are programming. This is programming. They want people to get used to that idea of exploring the stars and meeting aliens, or aliens coming to us, like the day the Earth stood still, or Independence Day, something like whatever, all that's programming to reinforce that idea. And it goes with heliocentrism, it goes with evolution, because these are things that have evolved in other rocks, other places, just like us, And I think it's all leading up to this final war I mentioned at the end of it all. They're trying to get everybody to become followers of Lucifer. And all that really means is that man thinks they are God. So that means it's up to mankind to control their future and their evolution. And that goes hand in hand with aliens coming to teach us how to evolve to be like them. Okay, so that's if we end up in that position, we'll drop all of our previous belief systems and we'll become Luciferian, which means we'll become followers of our own light, our own guiding light of ascending to be like gods ourselves, like super aliens, like these members of the Galactic Federation that have just turned up or something, you know, and we'll engineer ourselves through technology to be like gods or super advanced beings so we can go out and become spacefaring species like these that have come to visit us now. But all they are probably even fallen angels coming down and lying to people that they're aliens from space. That's all. It's an illusion. It's magic again, you know. And the illusion's only held up by the centuries, the decades of propaganda that have created this hyper reality in people's minds that isn't real. That there's vast space and we're insignificant rock about to be visited by aliens at any minute. You know, that's been programmed into people. So you have lots of people waiting for aliens to turn up. They're just desperate for it. They're bored. It's like, well, aliens just turn up already. I'm sick of this life, you know. That's where people are at now. And that's on purpose. So they're always teasing like, oh, could this be it? So 3-Eye Atlas was the recent one. Yeah. But there have been other things in the past where they've like hinted, like, oh, Nibiru's returning was a big thing. The 13th planet of Zachariah Sitchin, you know, and the Mayan calendar coming to an end was another thing where they kind of hyped up this idea, you know, that something's going to come and turn up and change everything forever. But it's a lie. And something will play out like that. It will, you know, and it will look like aliens have actually turned up. I will tell you this right now. It will look like aliens have actually turned up. But they haven't.
Project Bluebeam.
Yeah, Bluebeam will be involved. I think they have flying saucers ready to go in underground military bases and under the sea. I think they've got them built, ready to go at any moment. You know, whole fleets of them, and they're going to unleash them in the moment that the alien invasion kicks off. And we're going to think they've come from space, but they've likely just come from the oceans, because it's a vast place, but no one's going to have any witnesses of them coming out. You know, no one's going to see them coming from the earth rather than from the sky. I think they're going to possibly mix it up with like a mothership scenario of some kind. I've speculated perhaps when the mothership turns up, that's actually Jesus and New Jerusalem coming down from heaven, as it says in Revelation. But they need us to believe we're under attack by aliens. That's what they need us to believe when that happens. But really, it's God coming to establish his kingdom finally, once and for all, new heaven and earth stuff, you know. Not just the millennial reign, but like the final. This is it now. The earth's coming to an end, and we're going to renew it into its original form as it was when Adam was around, type of stuff. And New Jerusalem is coming down, the heavenly kingdom from heaven. And it's going to look from our perspective like a mothership coming out of space. Like we're not going to. Our worldview has been warped to perceive such an event like that, you know. And then that's when they release all the UFOs from the ocean and attack all the cities. Sort of vaporizing places, and we're going to think we're under attack by a mothership who's just released all of its little drones to come and kill us. You know what I mean? But that's not what's really going on. So they could play out like that. How do we get people to come together as one and make war with a common enemy? Well, that's one way of doing it. So if the whole world comes together and tries to attack the mothership, then the devil's just convinced the whole earth to make war with the camp of saints, with New Jerusalem, with Jesus. You know, so I can see it playing out like that in some sort of weird, double-blind, psychedelic type of way. So that's like one scenario I could see playing out. It would make sense why there even is all this agenda to convince us of aliens. It's because they know Jesus is about to return at any moment from heaven, and they want people to fight him rather than be happy he's here. So that's one way you do it. Make people believe in aliens. So when he turns up, they have no framework to interpret it in any other way, and they'll think they're under attack by aliens. So when you see like documentaries coming out about disclosure, or the president's hinting at releasing the Roswell files or something like this, or Mexico has found a tiny little paper mache alien here, you know, something like this happens, like, oh, this weird comet's not behaving right, you know, or something like this. It's all just that priming you for that event when it finally goes down. And that's the end game, by the way. That will be the final like thing. But I don't think it's coming until after that war I mentioned earlier. where all the religions have to destroy each other. They're fomenting that earthly man-made war first. And I think in the midst of the horrors of what's going at the peak of the horrors of that war is when aliens are going to rock up to put an end to it and save us from ourselves. That type of stuff. And we're going to be thankful for them. They're going to be our saviors from space. And we're all going to like, everyone's like at each other's throats, running at each other with bayonets, if that's even a thing anymore. You know what I mean? Everyone, like, bombs going off everywhere, and suddenly this thing appears in the sky, and everyone just stops. The war's over. It's done. Like, how small our differences seem in light of this new situation that's just come upon us. You know, how petty our differences now are. Like, are we even that different after all? We're all just one.
Ronald Reagan, was it?
Yeah, Reagan.
Yeah, we're all just humanity, are we not?
Reagan
You know,
nations.
and humanity now needs to collectively come together. We all clearly Christianity was wrong. All these religions were wrong. Aliens are here now, and that proves them wrong instantly. So, we have to leave all that behind. Now we better go along with what the aliens tell us because they know better than us because they're clearly more advanced than we are, and that's it. That's the deception. That's the big final deception. that'll be the one. So yeah. No to aliens. This is a long-term plan in the making. Absolutely. This is Lucifer revealing himself. This is Lucifer and his legion. This is demons and angels that are against God, working in rebellion against him, doing their final hurrah, like their final play, basically. Don't fall for it. Do not fall for it. And there are men working for these entities, propagating that nonsense on their behalf through the medias they own, you know, and that includes these disclosure documentaries and the rest of it. I don't trust them as far as I can throw them. I can not even a little bit. No.
What do you think of like all these? I think it's all interconnected. Looking at the gestures and all these beings and our entities in, let's say, the DMT realm. And all the psychedelic realms, what do you think they are? Do you think they're actually entities? I think they are.
Yeah,
Must
I
be
think they
something
are
there.
the disembodied spirits of Nephilim. That's exactly what they are. There were giants on the earth at one point who were the hybridized offspring of angels who mixed with human women. They were dragon-like beings, so their offspring were serpentine in nature, and they were giants. And I think when they died, which was just before the flood, God made them kill each other. He sent his angels down to confuse the giants and make them go to war with one another. And they killed each other. And the parents, the angels who made them, had to watch their own children murder each other. That was their punishment, you know. And then those angels were bound in chains until the end, which I just mentioned, the end times, you know, so they get released for that time, that period. So they're probably released right now, plotting and making this final war happen I mentioned earlier, and about to pretend to be aliens, you know. But anyway, so that happened, and these offspring were created. But when they died, they're stuck on Earth in spirit form. They don't leave. They don't sleep like humans do or did before Christ came. You know, they don't have a domain to go to, heaven. They can't leave the Earth. They're of the Earth, and they shall remain with the Earth, you know. So their spirits wander the Earth, desperate to satiate their desires with no body to do that. So that's why we have possession. They possess people to use their bodies to feel things and taste things and smell things and see things and hear things and enjoy all the pleasures of having a body, you know, and that's what possession is really all about. They work with secret societies, and these members of the secret societies let them use their bodies for stuff in exchange for power. That's what making deals with demons is all about. This happens not only in secret societies, but in tribes all over the earth who venerate these things through costume and drugs and dances and let them in their body to use them so they can get stuff in return. That's the deal, you know, and the only thing on the other side of that spiritual veil are the disembodied spirits of these now dead giants. And yes, they look like jesters because they inherited those features from the serpentine seraphim parents, dragons. And they're like humanoid dragons in a sense. They've got bipedal with arms and legs and a head, but they also have psychedelic skin, big wide serpentine mouths, bulging eyes, sharp fangs sticking out, and wild crazy hair and colours all over the place. They look like clowns by anyone's standards, and jesters, you know. Some of them have horns like jester caps, you know. There's many variations of dragon and snake, you know, there's all sorts of types of species of lizard, but that's what you get, you know, you get these. And from our perspective, like a primitive human perspective on DMT in that realm, it's kind of like, oh, it kind of looks like a jester. It's the only way we can really describe it, but that's not what we're dealing with. Like, these are ancient primordial beings who hate you. They're not your friends. And there's a whole community surrounding them, like, oh, they're just archetypes of the collective unconscious there to teach you about how to do your own shadow work, you know, to make you confront yourself and become a better person. It's like, no, they are disembodied spirits of giants who have an agenda against you, and they're lying to you. Like, they have a reason and a history for why they ended up there and why they're even there at all and why you're talking to them. They're not some like reflection of your own consciousness or something like that. Like, they would love for you to believe that. They're happy for you to believe that. Oh yeah. And if not that, they'll tell you they're from the Pleiades constellation, or they're the Ascended Masters, or the fifth dimensional consciousness, or I don't know, whatever works for you. Time travelers from the future, from a humanity who's advanced further than you, or something. So they'll tell you anything if they think you'll believe it. And they do that. They lie. They tell everybody and everything. There are all sorts of different things, which means they're liars from the get go, you know. But the DMT jesters, yeah, they are specifically the disembodied spirits of Nephilim. So all my research and work and my book will explain clearly, like, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose I've watched so many of your videos now. I didn't want you to be having to repeat yourself, because you have talked at length about the Nephilim and the clowns and the little season and stuff. But it's been amazing talking to you, man.
Yeah.
Great privilege, and we'd love to chat to you again, maybe a year or so down the road. We could catch up with you and have, because there's so much stuff. I have all these notes here, and there's so much stuff to talk about, man. We really could. I could listen to you talking all day now, to be honest.
Well, you can do, because I'm going to do my own live show after this, so you can keep listening to me go on.
All
and
right,
on.
Jesus, man.
Jesus,
You're a busy man. You're a busy man.
It never ends. Yeah, but no, thanks for having me, John, Liam. It's been a pleasure. God bless. Stay in touch.
Yeah,
we'll do this again.
Yeah.
Thanks a million, Paul.
Thank
Cheers,
you,
Paul. Take care.
Bye now. Bye.
Bye now. God bless.
I want you to get together.